Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. I hope you guys are just having a fantabulous day that ends in Y. I can't seem to go a single weekend without having something go awry. Um, Interesting. No, I'm not muted. I shouldn't be muted. All right. Um, can you hear me now? I got it. You should be able to hear me, right? Yes. Um. Hmm. Weird. So I hope you guys. Yeah, this is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. And I'm not sure what the dealio is there. Apparently, I have a call board, so the call line's working, but I'm not connecting somewhere. Let's see. What do I have going on here? Hold on. What's this? Um, okay, there's that. I am touching the buttons. There we go. You know what? We're going to call here and. Sorry if I talk to myself. I do that a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. And it's about the only way that I know how to do my things. Weird. I just, yeah, that's the button I want. Hey, I think I got something going on here. Maybe. We'll try this, and then we will try this. And for those of you who are patiently waiting for me to actually start talking, I appreciate your patience because I can't seem to function without having some sort of malfunction. Right? Isn't that the way it works? Hey, I got a button noise. I think I did something right. Maybe? Yeah. Seriously, I am not, you know, handicapped, or, well, I am handicapped actually, physically. But I do kind of know some technology things, so it really blows me away when the technology doesn't work. So, yeah. Yeah, it's all good. I think we're good. Um, so, yeah, there we go. All right, so yes, this is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Being broadcast live tonight, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, and also on YouTube. So, hello, YouTube world. I hope you're having a good day. And yeah, there we go. As weird as things go, I will be slowly changing the way the layout is in the backdrop just a little bit, just because for me, fall is a time of transition, so I need to transform some things. I have been working in the craft area, cleaning stuff up and getting stuff ready for, um, the holiday rush, Yule, excuse me, uh, Yule and Christmas, and so yeah, just doing some stuff and keeping myself out of trouble in theory, right? Trying, anyways. Um, let's see. So, if you do want to see what's coming up or going on in my world or new products that are showing up in the store, you can always check out the website, and that's www.paisleywild.com. And if you just have a special request or have a question you want me to answer or show request, anything like that, you can always email me at wildepaisley@gmail.com. You can drop those kinds of things in the chat room, but I don't always see them, so I do ask for the email. Again, that's wildepaisley@gmail.com. If you just want to support my radio habit, I will happily accept that. you can do the cash tag, and that is $ TheSpacesBetween. And then, let's see. Yeah, you just stop in and say hi in one of the chat rooms. Or, again, yeah, send me the email, wildepaisley@gmail.com. And then, as you do your research, like I recommend every show, check out iLife.com, because iLife is the official sponsor for Truth Frequency Radio. Combines the high-quality, non-psychoactive properties of the ayahuasca, and along with some good old-fashioned CBD oil to help support all of you, because you know what? We all need to be supported. So yes, thank you for the patience in the chat rooms and the shows on TFR and YouTube both. So yeah, I think we are here and rolling. Let's see. Phone line, if you wanted to call in, that number is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, it's 44203-393-2871. Yeah. Alrighty. So, for those of you that pay attention to events in the night sky, you will know that early this morning there was a lunar eclipse. And it was, I believe, it was a red moon and a beaver moon. Beaver is in the animal. And there was so many jokes that I heard about that. Anyway, so yeah, it was the full moon actually happened at 3:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Thursday night into Friday morning. And this is why, for me, I tend to celebrate the full moon as a 3-day event. The night before, the night of, and the night after. So for me, if I'm looking at the calendar, today being the 19th, this is the middle days of the night of, although technically it was last night, but to me, 3 days, with the stronger magic happening generally on the middle day. And why? It's just the way I do it. 3 is a really good number in my world, so I tend to do things in 3s rather than any other number. And sometimes you just gotta, do the magic. And some days you just don't have the ability. For instance, here locally, yes, we had the lunar eclipse, but we also had 6 inches of snow. So I didn't get to see the lunar eclipse, which is really quite sad. I wanted to. I got up a couple times so I could go out and look, and no, we had snow. Tonight we have high clouds, so it's overcast, but the moonlight is coming through the clouds, so it's quite bright outside, but I still can't see the moon. Not clearly, which is vexing. So this is part of the reason why I generally celebrate a full moon SBAT, if you will, as a 3-day event. And I will do different things on the different days, just because for me, I feel the full moon strength is strong all 3 days. And I'm just trying to fit things in. So now, something that we do need to remember is we don't actually have to see the full moon to get the full moon energy, because the full moon light goes through the clouds just like the sunlight goes through the clouds. So if you do have crystals or tarot cards or tools or things that you want to cleanse, you can do it the night of the full moon, even with the full cloud cover, because that energy is still coming through. It doesn't stop because of the clouds. For me, it's just kind of an aesthetic thing. If it's cloudy out, I'm not always as excited. Do I like snow? Yes. Do I want to go play in 6 inches of damp snow? Not so much. That makes my feet cold, so no. I'll probably do something tomorrow night, honestly, just because that's my night. And it's seriously my path, my tradition, the way I do things as Paisley Wild. That's my way. Other traditions do things differently, and that's okay. So if you are in a specific tradition, follow that tradition. Or if you are a solo practitioner, well, you know what? You're going to do things your own way anyways. And Not a doggone thing wrong with that at all. So you just need to truly do what is best for you and your practice, your spirituality, your pagan path, your witchiness, however you want to embrace it. So that being said, just some details from the Farmer's Almanac. The full beaver moon, was not quite a full eclipse. It was only a partial. So it was 98% of the moon was covered by the Earth's shadow at the height of the eclipse. So during a lunar eclipse specifically, hey Julia, the moon, the sun, and the Earth are in alignment. With the Earth is in the middle, which means the sunlight is shining upon the Earth, and the moon is passing on the backside of the Earth, and so it's covered by shadow. Often it gives the moon quite the reddish glow or a coppery hue, which can sometimes be attributed to calling it a blood moon. Now, does a blood moon mean it's washed in blood? No. It just means that due to spatial and atmospheric conditions, the moon turns kind of a reddish color. Same thing happens when forest fires happen and there's a lot of smoke in the air, or volcanoes happen and there's a lot of ash and such in the air. And so it's can be a sign or a portent, absolutely, and it has been used or observed as such, seeing a red moon in the past. But again, it also depends upon, where you're at and how connected you are to the world around you. So say when Vesuvius blew up and smothered Pompeii, for the regional peoples that could saw the blood moon at that point, knew that something significant had happened, but they couldn't just Google it and see what happened. Google wasn't there then, believe it or not. I am older than Google for some of these youngins. Yeah. I'm technically older than the free public internet. Yeah. Good recipe for clam chowder. Well, clam, potato, onion, salt, pepper, milk. Text me tomorrow and I'll send you one, Julia. So the eclipse happened at 4 a.m. Easter time on Friday morning, on the 19th. And the beaver moon, as I've mentioned in the past when we've talked about the moons and the different names, it has to do with beavers really starting to put stuff away in earnest for the winter ahead. During the fur trade era in North America, even now, not as much, but back in the day, when America was being slowly explored by the European settlers and such, often the beaver were trapped this time of year because their pelts or their skin or their fur was very, very thick and warm and just really highly desired by the upper class, and just really warm, partly because it's warm. I mean, it's interesting. I'm watching the Wheel of Time series on Amazon Prime, partly because I love the series. Love it. And I've read it more times than I will readily admit to. And one of the things I've noticed is that as they're traveling, they're wearing their clothes when they sleep and they just cover up with a blanket. And the blankets are not very heavy. And I'm sure they're warm. They're probably made out of wool. But back then, they didn't really have a lot of the cold weather gear that we have today. Most of it was leather or natural fibers, wool, cotton, that kind of thing. And so, yeah. Beaver fur, buffalo hide, wolf, coyote, deer, that kind of thing, elk, moose. Those big hides, those furs, were really essential to stay warm in the wilder parts of North America. Some of the other names for the November full moon would be the digging or scratching moon. It's because a lot of the smaller animals are digging for nuts or shoots of green foliage, not necessarily just here in the northern hemisphere, but also in the southern as things are growing. Bears are also digging out their winter dens and getting comfortable as they get ready to take their long winter sleep. The Dakota and Lakota term, deer rutting moon, tends to mean, well, deer are looking to mate up and do the business. Same with elk, moose, and such. So, let's see. Also, the Algonquin whitefish moon references the time for when the whitefish are spawning in the creeks and getting ready to lay their eggs and do their thing. And if I have too much noise, I do apologize. I seem to have extra help of the four-footed fluffy variety. If they decide to show themselves, I will pick them up and show you. Another name from the November full moon is the frost moon by the Cree, or the Assiniboine peoples, also known by the freezing moon in the Anishinaabe. And that's because, well, you know what? It's cold. On Anishinaabe, honestly, the Cree and all them, they live in cold areas, and they're not joking when they say the cold moon. I've lived in upper Minnesota, and for November through March, seeing 40 below is not a shocker. And yeah, the freezing moon. Mm-hmm. I'm whining a little bit about being 32 degrees. It's not that cold here, but yeah. Anybody who decides to live in Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, western part of Montana, northern Iowa, Illinois. It's cold there, guys. I hope, or will be cold there. Maybe not yet. Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, all them, New York. You guys know where you are, and you know it can get just bloody cold. So be prepared. For me, it's the freezing moon more than the beaver moon, because I'm late enough in the year here at this elevation and this latitude that, yeah, the beavers are done. It's cold. So, anyways, that's from the Farmer's Almanac. And for a lot of us, we're noticing changes. It's fall time. The leaves are changing. They're falling. The grasses are turning yellow. Crops are in, that kind of thing. And we're past the fall equinox. And it's time to really look at our priorities. What kind of changes do we need to make as we move forward in our world? Do we need to make changes to our spiritual practice? Do we need to make changes with our family or friends or coworkers? And often those relationships, well, I don't know about you guys, but mine have changed a lot in the last 2 years. A lot. A lot. And because of this change, excuse me, we need to really revisit some of the things that we do to prioritize our connections. And if we aren't doing that, we'll have a hard time staying in touch with our friends and family and keeping those relationships healthy. Excuse me. Let's see. The show notes will have links for any of the websites I use. Just because. Oh, I didn't want that. I want this. I have an article here. The website is Explored Deeply. And I actually really like the author, the gal who owns it. So, again, show notes. Check it out. Because, yeah, you need to. All right, so, and I'll get to that probably after the break. I want to talk a little bit about the eclipses again. So, eclipses are more rare, of course, than new moons or full moons. They generally happen about 4 to 6 times annually instead of the 13 moons, full moons and new moons. And I mentioned the eclipse, the full eclipse gives the Earth, or excuse me, the moon a red, brown, or gray hue. The other two types of lunar eclipses are the partial and penumbral. A partial lunar eclipse happens when the Earth is not directly in line with the Sun and Moon, causing only part of the Moon to be cast in the Earth's shadow. A penumbral lunar eclipse happens when the Sun, Earth, and Moon are this close to being perfectly aligned but aren't quite there. So it's really hard to tell those eclipses apart from a regular full moon. So there may only be like a bite out of the moon instead of the whole thing being eclipsed. Now, a solar eclipse happens when a new moon sits directly between the Sun and the Earth. And generally this happens during the daytime. You can see the eclipse because it's visible, and you can see the moon fully blot out the Sun for a few minutes. So the total solar eclipse is probably the one that we're most familiar with. That's the one that we see or most noticeable. But there are two types of solar eclipses, the partial and annular. A partial solar eclipse is when the Sun, Moon, and Earth don't quite align, so only part of the Sun is blocked by the Moon. Again, a little bite is taken out. And an annular solar eclipse is also called a ring of fire. And that's when the Moon doesn't fully block the Sun, leaving a flame outline around the Moon, which is really cool. Don't look at it directly. This is one of those things you want to make sure you have the safety glasses on, often a welding helmet. Don't trust the stuff that the little paper ones, just saying. Generally speaking, we're more likely to get a really good view of the lunar eclipse since the solar eclipses are only visible from certain points on the Earth. Now, the lunar eclipses are often called the blood moons because of that reddish hue that the moon takes on, and they're really awesome. Actually, any of the eclipses are really awesome, and it's even for those that we know that are not part of the pagan path, they still feel something in their gut, if you will, or at their heart, or in the back of their mind or something. They still feel that energy of the change from the eclipse, and there is a lot of energy. I've seen some references online in different social media platforms where it says eclipse energy is total chaos. No, it's just energy, and that's kind of a misconception that's been pushed out or played upon by a lot of the Hollywood, some different movies and stuff that have been out lately. Saying, "Oh, hey, it's an eclipse. That means chaos energy is easier to reach the hero of the movie." Well, no, not really. Excuse me. Chaos energy is out there, yes, but an eclipse does not open the door to additional chaos energy. That's just a word of note. Don't believe everything Hollywood says. And this is, again, why we research things. And when you're researching, you really do need to have a notebook to write the things down that you're finding, so you can reference them, go back to them, make sure you've got the websites or the links, that kind of thing. And you can make sure that you're still getting the information you need, and you can follow up and make sure the information that you're getting is actually legit and not, how to shake your rattle in World of Warcraft or summon a Hydra in Skyrim. I don't know. I'm just pulling names out. Because that's not really going to help. Sure, a lot of the video games do have some research behind them. Most of them, it's surface research. It's not really, they're not getting into the down and gritty, so pay attention. There's nothing more frustrating than reading an article that's really awesome, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. I'm really happy I read this article, and then you get to the end of it, and you see that the author is, a game designer for NES or ES or whatever, and yeah, that's frustrating. So, yeah. On that note, it's the bottom of the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk a bit more about the spiritual meaning and the significance of the eclipses. And if you do have questions, by all means, shoot me the email, wildepaisley@gmail.com. Call me. The lines are open. Or say something in one of the chat rooms. I will happily do my best to not confuse you. We'll be right back, guys. Hello. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Hope you guys are just having a fantastic day that ends in Y. Because why not, right? We do this all the time. We talk about having a good time and focusing and not being stressed. Because there's enough stress in the world, we don't need any extra help. Isn't that right, Lucky? Okay, Lucky's not there yet.
It is indeed. My mouse is possessed by something other than what I want it to be possessed by. It should be possessed by logic. I think that's the name of this thing too. Logic, something. Logitech or whatever. Yeah, it is Logitech. Mm-hmm. Yep. Logic should be the thing in charge of this thing. But good evening, everybody, or morning, wherever you are. Yeah.
Lucky's here to keep me from chasing the squirrels.
I am the squirrel. What are you talking about?
So, there's this myth, and you hear about it all the time, about how during the full moon, the crazies come out. Mm-hmm. If you're in customer service, you see it. If you're in the medical industry, you see it. If you're in law enforcement, you see it. If you're in the service industry of any kind, you see it. Elaine in the chat room says bus drivers see it.
Nursing.
Emergency rooms. Yeah. People who say that are mental health people, other people, not mental health people, but the lay people who aren't part of any of that, or the scientists, whatever, you say that nothing like that really happens in the full moon. I really need to step out of the lab and take the coat off and go sit at a coffee shop for a little bit.
I dare them to go to, no. Better yet, for anybody out there, anybody, anybody who's listening, and you have any doubt that the full moon has any effect on the population or people acting crazy or weird, okay, I dare you, I triple dog dare you to go to Beaufort, South Carolina. Beaufort, South Carolina during the full moon.
Why Beaufort?
That place is amazing with the full moon crazy. Okay.
Oh, really?
I've traveled the world. I know this one. Okay. Beaufort, South Carolina.
Yeah.
It is the home of Parris Island Recruit Training Center for Marines.
Yes.
It's also the home of, Beaufort County. Beaufort County. But I'm telling you, there's even the animals act strange, everything. Okay. And especially in the springtime. Go to Beaufort, South Carolina in the full moon springtime. Oh, yeah. You're going to see the crazy. Because I didn't think it was crazy. I didn't think of it before very much, but when it really came home for me, it was not during my magical time. When I was pursuing magic and pagan research and such. While I did get to experience, that there was some really cool but crazy stuff in the magical world. But the problem was there was other things too. Okay. This was in the 90s. I'll tell a story what happened. I asked my neighbor for a ride to the grocery store because my car, I had to work on the carburetor.
Okay.
All right. Now, previously, I had let my neighbor come over and use my phone. That was back when we had landlines, not cell phones. Thank you very much. So I would let him use my phone periodically. And so one time I asked him for a favor, and that was to take me to the grocery store so I can pick up some groceries because I didn't get my car fixed yet. So he did. And we're in the Winn-Dixie now. It was a Winn-Dixie. And I had been at that store for years. I'd gone to that store. That night, I was going into the Winn-Dixie. I almost got hit by a car.
Oh, my stars.
Got in there, and I'm walking around, and I'm getting these glaring looks from people. They're just glaring at me, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, what the heck is up with people today? It's like, okay, just, shake my head, shake it off and continue on. I get to the register, and all of a sudden, when I go to write my check for the groceries, all of a sudden I'm asked for my ID. They call my bank to make sure I have the money in it. They scrutinize me horribly than ever before. Usually I just write my check and give it to them, and they take it and move on, right?
Yeah.
On the way out to the car, almost got hit by a car again. Some guy, acted like he was going to run me over. And I looked around, I said, what the hell? Is it a full moon out here or something? And because that's how bizarre the behavior was that day.
Wow.
Now, see, I had learned that you stay in on full moons because people are crazy and stupid, and you don't want to get caught up in that melodrama. I didn't like melodrama.
No.
Well, it wasn't a full moon. All right. It was not a full moon, but the crazy actions that day suggested it was. Okay. And what it was is that there's a lot of people in that town that at that time was still prejudiced. See, my neighbor was black.
Oh.
Yeah. And I didn't see that because guess what? I was in the military. I went to an all black high school. Guess what? I don't, that doesn't equate with anything. I don't understand people's weird behavior because of it. Come on. Because I would say, this is the 1990s. What the heck is wrong with people? Get with the times, It's like we don't do that, weird stuff anymore. We don't do that racist stuff anymore. But anyway, the point is that things were so crazy, it would be easy to attribute it to the full moon because that's how crazy the full moon was in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Wow.
They also have, not to the extent of Louisiana or the Jamaican Islands, but they did have some voodoo elements there too that might have contributed to the behavior there,
Yeah. That's just crazy.
It might have. That's all I'm going to leave at that. I won't tell what I do know, but yeah, there's some oddities that happen in Beaufort, South Carolina. There's a lot of spiritual activity. Let's say there's
Okay.
the Land's End Light, Ladies End. What was that other one? There's a lot of paranormal activity in Beaufort, South Carolina. Yeah. So the full moon, that just brings it out more sharply.
I gotta look it up now.
Beaufort.
Oh wow.
Most places pronounce it Beaufort, okay? But if you're there, it's called Beaufort. Like, Beaufort. Beaufort.
Beaufort County, South Carolina
Beautiful.
has 3 separate
That's it.
haunted sites. Oh, Beaufort has a castle and a French dwarf that's a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be darned.
Tons of stuff. Well, I'm more interested in the Land's End Light, which is a green light that runs along the road and it distracts drivers and leads them into trees, and they die, on the side of the road and crashing into a tree for no explicable reason. What it would seem, but there was a detective on the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department, and he was asking me to take a job there at the county, the department, as a consultant for the esoteric.
Oh, really?
The different esoteric belief systems back then. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Saltamontes. I didn't believe in full moon stuff until I worked retail. I understand exactly what you mean because I worked retail too. Yeah, it is. There's something to it.
Yes.
But yeah,
Customer
Beaufort
service
is a destination.
Yeah, sounds like it might be someplace I have to go next time I visit family over in that area. It's a, they call it a
You know
Sleepy
what?
Hollow.
Take the paranormal crew with you. Just make a big deal trip of it, because there's some stuff over there. Frogmore. Let's see. There's a lot of plantations or former plantations. Yeah.
Craziness.
Beaufort, South Carolina.
So yeah. Now I have noticed a similar energy, often not as strong, and definitely more subtle, but similar, for the new moon.
I agree.
It's like the bat crap crazy people just all come out on the full moon, but the educated bat crap crazy people come out on the new moon. If that makes sense.
Your psychopaths, maybe your genius level. Yeah, that's your genius level crazy ones, right?
Right. It's more like they know things go bump in the night.
And they want to instigate it.
Well, and they're comfortable. Whether they are the ones that are the bump in the night or they are just comfortable with the bumps. I'm not sure which, but they seem to be more common in the new moon, or the dark moon, rather than the full moon, when the moon's light is shining on everything and making all the odds and ends stand out. So,
well, if you think about it, it's like you could see more at nighttime in the full moon when it's fully lit, of course. You can see the animals walking around at night. You could see, you're going to see more shadows because there's more light. You're going to see more shadows at night. Duh. That's going to make it look creepier, But new moon, that's when you hear more because it's darker. So there's something to it, and I think we're just instinctively attuned to these phases.
yes.
These phases of the moon.
So the last new moon here, or was it? Yeah, last. Yeah.
10 days ago.
I'm just thinking, when was daylight savings time? Was that 2 weeks ago now? I think so.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So it was about 2 weeks ago. Mini-Me, she rides the bus and she gets on the bus at about 10 minutes to 7. And before daylight savings time, it's quite dark. So I would walk down with her. And often I saw these really awesome umbrellas. They have lights in them. So I'd just walk down with my umbrella and turn the light on at the end of the driveway so people would know that we were there.
Nice.
Yeah, right? It's easier than carrying a candle or a flashlight. And
you would too. I know you would.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And candles are warmer. Anyways.
And spookier looking and cool. Make
right?
people look at you. Look.
Exactly. my brindle boxer with her pink harness and canvas jacket that she wears. But no, it was interesting because on the way back after she got on the bus, and it was about new moon, I saw two pink orbs along my driveway between my walnut trees and my elderberry, or one of my elderberry trees down the driveway.
Oh.
And so I had the light off on the umbrella, so it was dark, and there was no porch lights on, and so it was dark. I was just enjoying the dark, and I turned my head different ways. Are my glasses catching something? There's no cars on the road. Took my glasses off. I could still see them, not as clearly, but they were there, and it was really interesting. I was like, hello. Cheerio.
Mm-hmm.
Are we migrating south because it's cold? So yeah, it was. I don't know. It was just really interesting. It wasn't a scary thing. It was just more of an interesting of note thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's funny.
mm-hmm.
It's funny. You're seeing that. Hang on a second. Monday, I got a photograph of a friend's adult daughter's front porch. Now, you see the pictures, and it's like you see something blurry next to this, the strut for the porch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you see, if you open up the picture, you'll see that there's two ghosts right there on the porch, and one is climbing up the stairs. In the second picture, you could see that they both have moved a little bit, and the one that was climbing up the stairs was down at the bottom of the stairs on the second picture. I should send these to you on your phone. Yeah, because that. Hey guys, and I wouldn't have said that was a ghost. It's like the first picture looks like it could be a reflection of something, like from the post, but it's not, because the second one definitely is not. Let me show this to you real quick. And I should have done this before, but I told him to tell her to salt her place, and put some witches bottles up.
Yeah, make sure they're
because if they're friendly, they won't mind. If they're not friendly, they'll stay away.
There you go. So as you're, there it is. As you're looking stuff, eclipses in general have been really important throughout the millennium when it comes to those upon the pagan path. For some, as I mentioned earlier, it was a sign of importance. It was a good thing. And others, it was a sign of something scary. Kind of depended upon their different traditions. And I say it like that because there are those, say, the Druidic people are a lot different than, say, any of the Central American tribes, the Mayan, the Aztecs, the Inca. They're a little bit more warlike and scary. The Egyptians had a little bit different take on the eclipses and everything. So it was all different. So some traditions or some belief patterns or belief sets, full moon was an awesome thing, and an eclipse was even awesomer. And for others, it was a scary thing. But the eclipse itself is not inherently a chaotic magic or chaotic energy. It just is. Kind of like a knife is a knife is a knife. The energy is the energy is the energy. It's
right.
What you do with it that changes.
Exactly. You don't get mad at a hammer. You either use it for good or bad. It's you can't, just because it's red or yellow or orange or black, it doesn't make any distinct differences as to its intent or purpose.
Exactly. So within astrology itself, the sun generally represents our conscious mind and our creative power, and the moon represents our emotions and our unconscious. So symbolically then, if the moon is blocking out the sun, generally you're getting a pretty good read of the energy, and so your rational judgment can often drive up some intense reactions. So if it's a lunar eclipse, your unconscious and your emotion is being triggered. And if it's a solar eclipse, often it's a time to reflect internally, maybe embrace some new opportunities or deal with some past stuff, whether it's via shadow work or therapy or both. Either way, they can both bring out new beginnings and endings and give you some motivation to change. Motivation to change is a really, really big deal. It's hard. Change is hard. Regardless of what anybody else tells you, change is hard. It requires conscious effort constantly to get change. Excuse me. Sinus infection is still lingering just a little bit, but I'm better now. It's just not as better as I wanted to be. Sad.
Right.
I will be better soon, I promise.
But it's a change.
It is absolutely a change, for crying out loud. Now I'm actually coughing stuff up. This is a good change.
Yes.
So, with the lunar eclipse, often it's a good time to embrace endings and let go of those things that just don't serve you. You might not be ready. It's kind of like grasping a piece of moldavite. You might not be ready for that energy, but it's time. And sometimes we need that extra kick, that oomph to make the change and do the things that we need to do to grow. This is why we do our journals, so we know what's going on. And
True.
that shadow work, yeah, sometimes we do just need to deal with our shadows. Even when we think that we've got them under control, sometimes they'll sneak up and bite us in the butt. They're like, hey, you forgot about me. Guess what?
You purposefully and accidentally on purpose forgot about me.
Mm-hmm. Guess what?
That
We're
one.
going to trigger your anxiety for the next 6 weeks. Wah ha ha. Yeah, so you got to just deal with it. So eclipses in general, at least astrologically, are considered a cosmic cleanup crew, and a catalyst believed to bring abrupt beginnings, abrupt endings. Think of it as you bought a lottery ticket and you won. That is a very abrupt change, and often the changes are that stark, that exact. There's no, well, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like, oh, my stars. Okay, we're going to make a left turn here, and we're going to avoid the Bigfoot. But sometimes it is that push that we definitely need to make a change in our life. Because change is hard.
Well, I was just thinking about some stuff. I've been talking to several friends. I think I spoke with you about it a little bit when we finally get to talk it eventually throughout the week. But here's something that occurred to me, and that is, I was discussing about how remember the broom challenge
Mm-hmm.
that they had a couple of years ago? And then we got hit with the COVID and all this stuff. And somebody suggested on Facebook that maybe we need to do the broom challenge again to finish out this COVID era, And I was thinking about that and different changes and stuff. And then we just had the new, the eclipse last night, this morning, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of other changes have taken place. And it's like, this last week, definitely I've gone through a change. I've gone through a change in my observations in, people who have to work and are mothers. And if they have situations with children, I have a new respect for moms. I have way more respect for moms these days, especially with the diet that we have in our society or in our culture here. All the high fructose corn syrup driving kids nuts, and then therefore driving parents nuts. Discipline and things like that. And I've got a real new respect for it. So that's a change in me. There was also changes. There was a lot of great changes that it doesn't look like much on the surface, but to me, it's really deep changes, contending with my history, with today, and how to make sure that I am not what I don't want to be. And I learned quite a few things. So there was a lot of changes there. So yeah, new moon, full moon. Oh, this month has been something else. And gosh, I mean, tell me if it's just me, or did it seem like October and November has already flown by so quickly? It feels like 2 or 3 days.
So I had COVID in November, October. I don't know where it went. I love October. October is my favoriteest month of the year. Drama. And, well, Yeti and Merlin are over here staring at her like, what are you doing? Why are you in a lap? Because I can't. She's warm and fuzzy. But, yeah, I don't remember much of October. It just went by, and I slept through it. Yes, I did. It's because I was sick. That's why. You still got fed. Shush. Do you want to go beat up the kitties? All right, go beat up the kitties. Don't step on the soundboard. Yes, she
Don't
got
step
fed.
on the soundboard, she says.
It's bad because she pushes buttons. She's very good at pushing buttons. Cats are fantastic at pushing buttons. But no, I don't remember much of October.
You got to do it back. I'm sorry. I know it went by. It has to.
I went out and did trick or treating with the mini me. That's about all I remember from Halloween or October, and then November's been recovery, and I've been doing some. I've had to get some treatments on my back, and so back and forth and driving and doing the things and being, I'm not. This is what I'm doing now: the show and writing and stuff, and being a mom, stay-at-home mom. I don't have any time. How did I do all this stuff?
And have a job.
And have
How did you do that?
I don't know. No idea. No idea.
It makes me wonder. It really does make me wonder. But what's really neat is that the child I was caring for last week, he said we went to go check the mail and we have to climb up this hill to get out of the lane here. We live literally in a hollow. And so we had to climb out in order to get to the mailbox, right? And he looked up at the hill across the street and he says, "Look, somebody's been decorating."
Uh-oh.
Well, it's because all the yellow leaves and orange and red, it's just vivid colors. He said, "Somebody's been decorating." A 4-year-old said this.
That's awesome. He sees it.
That boy, he can see some things. Yeah, he can see some things, some really cool things.
Kids often see things before they have the rigidity, the structure, and the blinders that humanity puts in place as they mature.
You got that right. I can be a testament to that. I can be a testament to that because
yes,
I remember seeing a lot of stuff when I was a kid. And nobody knew what the hell I was talking about, and they would look at me like I was crazy. And then it's like later on when they realized it was true, they got scared.
Yep. All right. So,
isn't it funny we are blind to the things we're afraid of?
Well, it's hard. It's hard to see the things that we're afraid of because subconsciously we're trying to protect ourselves. And that subconsciousness to protect us, it makes it easy to ignore the things that scare us because we don't want to look, we don't want to see, we don't want to hear, we don't want to do. And that's why shadow work's really important because we identify those things that we're afraid of and that we shove down and ignore because we're afraid of it, even though those things will empower us in reality. So it's just
But just like a mushroom, it's going to pop up in the dark.
Right? So we are at the top of the hour already. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Yes.
Time goes just flies.
Yep.
So when we come back, I'm going to do singing bowl because I love doing the singing bowl. And just to let you guys know, the format for the show will be changing in the next week or two just because I got to do some things differently, like go to sleep earlier. So we'll get back to that in a minute. We'll be right back. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. We're being broadcast live, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, Tune In, and TalkStream Live, and on YouTube. Hi, everyone. So we're going to start the top of the hour with some singing bowl. I always feel better after that. Absolutely. Every single time.
I think everybody does. I think everybody does. Yeah.
If they don't, I want to know why. What are you doing wrong?
Just breathe it in. That's all. Just breathe.
Right?
I love that sound. I really do. And I love the tone that you've got. I love that singing bowl. I really do. I'm going to have to get a new one day, but not now. It's not the priority right now. I got other things I got to get done. But
Right.
I have a question for you because you were talking about signs and portents. And I know you were covering eclipses, but something odd happened today.
Okay.
And I want to talk about that.
Okay.
I got a message that the Kyle Rittenhouse jury was coming back in from deliberations.
Yeah.
And I was like, already? You sure? It's like, are they coming in now? Then the judge was, and then I was told that the judge is coming in, about to make the announcement and stuff. And all of a sudden, I can smell roses. Just the scent of roses all over the place. I mean, just throughout the whole house. And I have no floral aromas going on in my house at all because I'm not a floral. I'm into spices, woodsy scents, earthy scents, Not saying I dislike flowers. It's not that. It's just I really like the spicy scent of the leaves and the humus and the scent of pine needles and the earth, and wood and trees and such, just woody scents. So there's no roses around my property. There's no flowers going on around my property. It's autumn, And so all these roses, that scent of roses, it was amazing. So that, and that scent continued on as the jury was reading the verdicts and such. And of course, it came out, all 5 counts not guilty, blah, blah, blah. Eventually the scent of roses did go away. But I was wondering what in the heck, because I don't know anybody who's so enthralled with roses. So there's no associations. I can't find any associations in my life about roses.
You've heard the phrase that so-and-so came up smelling like roses, right? It's a saying. All right.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
That's it.
So, generally speaking, it means that people believe that you are good and honest after a difficult situation that could have made you seem to be bad or dishonest. So, example, when the results of a fraud investigation were announced last week, the staff came up smelling of roses and they were innocent.
Wow. Wow, dude. I'm sorry. I'm really floored with this one. That's great.
So there's other things, and we talked about it.
Bravo, spirit world. Wow.
So generally, it's a good message if you smell roses, unless the smell of roses is associated with someone really negative in your world. Generally, it's a good sign. Within the Abrahamic traditions, it's a sign of God or blessings from the divine. Roses are closely, especially red roses, are closely associated with the divine. And it's some ESP or clairaudience, extrasensory perceptions, that kind of thing. You can often get spiritual impressions through a physical sense of smell. and it may come through in a prayer or meditation, that kind of thing. And angels often, or with a message, will have the smell of roses. So often it means that you're just loved. But I think in this particular situation, it really does mean that even though he was painted in a very bad light, he was innocent of the charges. Now, did he kill somebody? Yes. Was he shooting? Yes. That's not in dispute. And if you've had a chance to watch any of the videos that were taken, the drone coverage or the on-street reporters and such, it's really telling. And so in cases like this, often we hear the talking heads discuss this or what that means or this or that, and they give their own spin and their own interpretation and their own assumptions. And those are often colored by their own opinions and their own agendas. So if your full source of what happened with the Rittenhouse trial is based upon talking heads and interviews of other people, you need to pay attention to your sources and actually go look for the raw material and then make your opinion or make your own decision. And so that's what the jury had to do, is not listen to opinion and focus on the facts of the case as they are presented. And this is why when I say research, do your research, I'm expressing my opinion quite often on the show here, telling you guys what I think and what I believe and how I interpret things. That's all my opinion. You guys have to do, find the same research, do the same kind of thing. I'll try to help as much as possible. But you have to form your own opinions. I don't ever expect anybody to blindly believe what a show host says, or a preacher, a priest, a pastor, priestess, spirit guide, any of that. Don't just blindly believe and blindly follow. Ask questions. Trust your instincts. Trust your gut. Because if you don't, you're going to get led down a path that you don't necessarily want to be on, and that's how you get sucked into a cult. Cult, exactly. Not occult. So, and cults are often very scary places and hard to get out of, and they come in every shade under the rainbow, every stripe, every color, they're not just pagan, they're also Christian, they're Islamic, they're Judaic, there's so many of them. Just pay attention. That's why when you're looking at a coven, I tell people to ask questions, make sure it's a coven that's looking out for the best interests of its members and not just basically a glorified sex club. Unless that's your jam. I don't know. But ask questions and make sure you're joining the right group for the right reasons, and you're not going to be used for the wrong reasons.
Wow, you really you nailed all those points well, and I want to go dial back to the evidence that was presented. Just so you know that one of the hosts that we used to have here on the station. Mm-hmm. He's going to be returning, if I understand things correctly. He's going to return to the station. He's going to resume his daily show here. Nice. His name is Kristan. He is going to be on my show Monday night. Ooh, now, the reason why he's going to be on my show Monday night is because I waited. I restrained myself. I refrained from asking him to be on my show while the trial was on. But I specifically want him on my show because he had video evidence. He was at the Kenosha riots. He was filming. He was filming a lot of events going on there, and he got footage of the event in which Kyle Rittenhouse was tried. Mm-hmm. And it was good video footage, and it was instrumental in the trial. So he was there. He was, because he was media and he was there and he was filming the whole thing. He was a part of history also. Mm-hmm. And I commend him greatly. Man, that's not good having dyslexia with that word, huh? Right. I commend him greatly for stepping out and having the bravery to go out into that kind of environment to do his due diligence in gaining information so as to report the truth but also for stepping forward and saying, "Hey, I've got video footage that um, might be more illuminating than what you've got already."
Mm-hmm.
So it was instrumental, and I'm so glad that he did what he did, that he was a part of it, and he could see all the proceedings and everything like that, what all happened. And he's going to be on my show tomorrow, or excuse me, Monday night. So, if you guys want to check it out, it's here on tfrlive.com, and it's a Monday night at 7 p.m. So Brooks Agnew and I are going to be hosting Kristan T. Harris.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. Anyway, but again, justice was served, and what was that? There was some symbolism at that concert that took place recently. The Astro World, is that what it was called? Astro Hell or whatever. Everybody's going. It was in Houston. That rapper that was doing that show, and people got killed there. There
Mm-hmm.
was some reference to this particular goddess that is, she has scales, but she does not have a blindfold on. And it's a Greek goddess of justice. Aeneas, I think, something like that. Anyway, but that came to mind. That came to mind because that happened last week. So now we've got this other form of justice taking place. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody, and I'm trying to remember whom, about Silver Ravenwolf had done a writing about a justice spell, how to call for justice. Now, the interesting thing about justice is if your slate is not clean,
Mm-hmm.
you best not be calling for justice, justice, because justice is blind, and she's after injustice, and she has a sword, you know. So when I was just reading this off to my protege back then, she, I heard the footsteps behind me, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, no, no. I'm just reading this. No, no, no. Wait a minute. Because I knew that my slate was not clean. And I said so. My slate's not clean. I'm not ready for this. No, I'm not calling for justice. I am just reading this to my protege. So be very, very careful if you get a hold of a justice spell, no matter who writes it or who formulates it, or if you formulate your own. Be careful about calling for justice. You better have your slate clean. You better be innocent yourself, because she's blind. She can't see.
Mm-hmm.
She's just going after injustice, and she'll get you too if your slate is not clean.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Anyway, those are signs of portents that I was thinking of for the past couple weeks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of weird, huh?
It is. And I think it's that whole change thing that we're seeing as we move from fall into winter. Fall is often a time of tying up loose ends as we settle in for winter,
Yes.
because it's time to be still. It's time to, spend time with family. It's time to create things, mend things. Just think about it. Once upon a time, we didn't have Netflix, and we lit our world by candlelight, like this. I have a candle. And so,
Yeah.
with that, often tasks were put off until, the winter time, when, yes, it was darker, but the daylight was used for getting food, preparing food, getting things ready for the winter, so you survive the winter, that kind of thing. And so that's when leather was fixed, clothes were made, crafts were created, and there's a lot of celebration. That's why the fall celebration was pretty awesome, leading into the Yule and the shortest night as the day gets longer, and there's celebrations there. And it's just a whole process. But right now, in the realm of the gods and the divine, we're wrapping things up. So, and justice, it may have been Themis or Dyke or DK, or Artemis.
That's
or Athena.
it.
Who DK?
Dika.
Dika.
Yeah.
So she was considered the Roman justice, or Greek goddess Hora, or Dika, and she was one of the three aspects of the goddesses of justice. So
That's pretty rough, man. When you got three aspects of justice,
Mhm.
whoa,
Yeah,
it's
so
like you better look at everything.
Dika was goddess of justice, fair judgments, and the rights established by custom and law. One of the three Horai or Hore, goddesses of the seasons, keepers of the gates of heaven. Her sisters were Eunomia, who is good order, and Irene, which is peace. And so she probably represented an aspect of springtime growth. Dike was also associated with righteousness and let's see, and the constellation Virgo, and her opposite was injustice. So it is her purpose in life to combat injustice in whatever flavor it appears. And if you think that injustice does not happen in our world today, you have only to look at the news, honestly, with your eyes open and your ears open and your intuition open, and you can hear the injustices. Oh, bye, Julia. Yes, call me later. And I mean, not just in the political realm, but in the spiritual one as well. I mean, here, I talk about paganism and witchcraft. I do it on a Friday and Saturday night. It is 10 o'clock at night right here. It's not. I'm doing things more out and about in the community. I'll be volunteering, probably with hospice in the local hospital for end of rites and that kind of thing, or end of life rites. And I'm also available for hand fastings and christenings and such. But just trying to reach out and do more for the community because I want to be that change, if you will. I want to be that force for good, and show that as a pagan, I'm not all about blood sacrifices and dancing naked under the stars. Gosh. Anybody who's dancing naked under the stars right now is bloody crazy because there's snow on the ground. Different story for a different night. And it's not all sex
not
clubs.
Not my party.
Right? And it's not all sex clubs. Now, the reason, on that note, real quick, I'm going to squirrel moment. The reason why does seem to be a lot of sexual activity and relaxed attitudes towards sex in general within paganism is because we're accepting. We're not going to judge you because of what you do in the bedroom or tent or whatever it is or wherever you are. As long as you're not hurting people or breaking the law, it's okay. Just be you. Love who you want to and be who you need to be. I don't care. And so that...
And wait a minute. Hey, and mind your own business.
Right.
Don't worry about what other people are doing. If you're minding your own business, you don't have time to see what other people are doing. Nobody's getting hurt. Leave it alone.
Right. If anything, I might tell you that, that outfit just doesn't, convey the message you're trying to get. But yeah. Well, and Zaralath in the chat room says, don't forget ancient traditions of fertility cults. Yeah, there have been fertility cults all over the place and fertility rites in almost every tradition. Because fertility was really important, not just for the people to procreate and have children, but also for the land. And there's all sorts of different rituals on how to bring fertility to the land. Sometimes it does involve a little nookie in the field, but that's...
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, just, be prepared for the dirt, depending on the time of year with the mosquitoes.
Hey, you have not had abrasive sex unless you've had sex on the beach. Really, not the drink.
Right? Well, I didn't end up with sand in interesting places. I ended up with sand fleas.
Ooh.
Which
Ow.
I don't recommend for anybody. Yes, that was a novel experience.
Well, if you're in Beaufort, South Carolina, you're going to get those too.
I am not coming to Beaufort, South Carolina to just do that. Ghost hunting, yes.
Well, I got to tell you a funny story. My ex-husband and I, way back in the 80s, I can't believe I said that. We were newlywed, and we were stationed at Camp Lejeune, and we were at Onslow Beach. We went to the beach on base, and we brought some wine coolers, and we spent the night out there. And the next morning, we heard this weird noise happening, right? This growling noise, this really weird mechanical growling noise. And it was Second AAV Battalion doing operations on the on the water, doing the landing and everything. So he and I can honestly say that we were having sex on the beach when the Marines landed.
Oh, my stars.
True story. True story, guys. Yeah. So anyway. Anyway, but you should have seen her naked butts running from that beach, man. We were grabbing our stuff and going, man.
I can only
and to hear
imagine
the laughter of all those grunts coming on shore, you know.
The stories they probably told afterwards.
The stories I tell.
Right?
Anyways. But yep, I mean, I can honestly say that, you know. Anyway, didn't mean to squirrel you off that way. I told you I was the squirrel. You know?
It's all good. So, but my point is, you know, that's why there's so much information. Mm-hmm. Hey, Alan. Just because myth in Hollywood portrays a group of people as a thing, don't believe everything Hollywood tells you. So, yeah. And as far as justice goes, yeah, it's happening. So with the lunar eclipses, a lot of spiritual significance with it. You're going to need to do your research. But right now, yeah, it's a good time to do your cleansing and let go of the baggage, because you can rejuvenate in the coming months, just like bears hibernate. A lot of your flower bulbs hibernate. A lot of things go to sleep this time of year. Including me. I keep taking naps. I'm okay.
I was going to say, I take naps, man.
I have a doctor's note to take naps.
I am my own doctor, therefore I don't need a note.
Well, I had sinus infection. I was talking to the doctor. I was like, hey, what's going on here? Why am I so sick? He goes, well, you're recovering from the COVID. It's like, okay, was this ever going to stop? He goes, well, yeah. It's like, well, I'm tired all the time. He goes, well, do you like naps? Like, yeah, I'm an adult. Of course I like naps. I don't fight them. I'm not 4. Hello, logic. And he's like, well, you need to take more naps. At least 2 hours a day. I'm like, seriously? Yes. So yeah, I take naps.
That's awesome.
And I had 2 today, so I had 2 yesterday. And not always long naps. I power nap. So, yeah. But,
right.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what? Actually, I think we should applaud each other when we take naps, when we give ourselves permission to take a nap and get some rest and power up. And actually, 4-year-olds do need to take a nap, or at least lay down and be quiet for a little while. Mm-hmm. You might not be able to convince them to take a nap and get some sleep. However, if you don't, you can make them. You can have them just lay down and be quiet and be still for a few minutes, and that usually works because they get to reset or go into neutral or something like that and not be so manic. And they act like they're calmer when they come out of that,
Absolutely.
So we grown-ups can do the same.
Absolutely. So with the whole cleansing and getting rid of the baggage and everything, setting it down and moving forward, change is the only constant that we seem to have in our world. And, rolling with the changes, accepting the changes, and growing with them, with those changes, is the best way for us to grow as people. And since they are natural and they happen, allowing ourselves to follow the rituals of life and those changes. I mean, I gotta tell you, the weather outside has changed since I came down here and got on the air. So if I go outside, it'll be different. Wow. It'll probably be colder, judging by the feel of things. The low is like 28 today. So it'll be colder than it was before the sun went down, which is normal. If I go upstairs, there'll be a change. The dog will be in a different place. Change happens. Sometimes it's small and subtle. Sometimes it's a big deal.
It's funny because it's elementary. Everything about this is elementary. Change is always going to be. It is just that. Mm-hmm. And I'm laughing because, the dog will be in a different place.
The other day, I had to get up to get a drink of water, and I walked downstairs, and she's sunny side up on the couch. It's like, what are you doing? And she just wags her tail and wiggles a little bit, so her head's hanging off the edge of the couch. It's like, seriously, you're just gonna lay there? And she just wags her tail and goes back to sleep. So, hey, last break, we come back. I want to talk about that tarot card. So be right back. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. So, before the break, I mentioned, change and such. This is a good time for change and figuring out the things that you need to put down and walk away from with the fall and the eclipse and such. Now, a couple of things during an eclipse or eclipse season. Identify your feelings, the ones that are really strong. It's often we don't have time to think about what's happening when a change hits us because they can be quite sudden. That's why journaling and meditation is really good. Even with change, don't make sudden, quick, snap decisions. This is why we're journaling them. Write down how you feel, pros and cons list, that kind of thing. Don't let the rapid energy, rush you into a decision that you might regret later. Connect more with the earth, because that lunar energy is quite up there. So remember, go outside, walk barefoot, hug a tree, play with your crystals, wear them, rearrange them, dust them, care for them. And then remember your self-care routines. Often we get so busy doing stuff, and I use stuff in capital letters in all the meanings that stuff could have. And because of the stuff, we often forget to just stop and take care of ourselves. Sometimes it's a pedicure or a manicure. Sometimes it's getting a haircut and just going ahead and having the wash and style with it. It's a couple extra bucks, I know. Often we don't have the dollars, but you get a head massage with that, and it feels fantastic. Or if you want to go a little bit bigger, get a massage. Go to the spa day. And, when we're dealing with energy and things we need to put down, often that self-care is what keeps us from falling back into that rut and those same thought behaviors and patterns. Now, the only way to have a true change, and I'm saying this just with all sorts of love and energy, guys, the only way to have a true change is to have an ending. And I got to thinking, even though most people see this specific tarot card as a scary one, to me it's not. It's the Tower card, and I'm going to try to profile a card periodically. We'll see how that goes. Just like I need to start doing more herb stuff. We'll see how that goes. I'll probably do some repeats because I lost my list. Yeah. Anyway, so in most images with the Tower card in the tarot decks, the Tower is there, and something has happened. It's been attacked. There's flames. In a lot of the older decks, it's demons are showing up. There's madness and despair, and everything's just destabilized and chaotic and frightening, if you will. When those cards were created originally, the images were done to educate the nobles and the clergy and to remind them of what they would have to lose if the hierarchy is toppled. So basically, if for some reason they were to lose control, what happens? And often that was a big fear, that loss of control, that loss of power that they had over people. And they really needed to learn that one, so they wouldn't lose that control. Now, lightning is a fitting karmic payback for guilt of those whose fortunes come from the exploitation or abuse of others. So instead of calling this a Tower card, you could technically call it revolution, because it's indicating a drastic social change. Oppressed people can find renewed hope in better times. The Tower card experience comes like a flash of lightning to topple the hierarchy of the old order so that everyone can have a fresh start on equal footing moving forward. Now, I'm not going to go into the reverse Tower meeting, mostly because in my readings I don't do reverses. I just don't. I only have so much brain space I can't remember it all. But to me, it's not as necessary. So within the Tower card, you should think of yourself as an agent of transformation. It's often a self-sacrificing role and is probably going to cause some stress. But your vision shows you that a radical change has been released by forces much larger than mere mortals, and therefore you are no longer resisting. You're accepting those endings, and you're accepting that change. Now, sometimes you're at the forefront, at the very beginning, you're a figurehead, whatever, and you acknowledge and you accept the bracing presence of the future just bursting in on the presence like a lightning bolt. Try to mediate the harsher parts of the changes as they unfold. So the most vulnerable are the most cushioned. These can be your loved ones, they could be the entities around us, it could be your friends, it could be society. But acknowledge yourself as well as the others in your life who are offering the resources to usher in a better future. So, the Tower card on the surface is a scary card, absolutely, because it looks like things are just going every which way wrong. And if you're on YouTube, I've got an image of an older tarot card up. And it's really a card of change. It's saying that what has been is coming to an end. And we have to have endings. The only way we can have an ending, the only way we can have a beginning is to have an ending. Something has to come to a close. You want to start the new job that really makes you feel great and fantastic and supports you and provides you the resources you need to take care of your family. Well, sometimes it means you got to quit the old job. Even though it's comfortable and you know all the people there and you're nervous about going to the new job because you're a stranger and you're the new kid. I hate that feeling. Or maybe in your spiritual practice, you've been eyeballing the pagan path and you've been trying to learn more about the pagan path, but you're not quite ready to commit to the pagan path because you don't want to alienate your family or you don't want to change the status quo. And I get it. But in order to truly grow into your pagan path, you have to let go of the traditions or the belief set that you had before. And you have to do it completely, or else you bring the detritus from your previous beliefs. That's why when it comes to the spiritual side, if you will, the religious side of being a pagan, so many people try to put the gods and the goddesses and the spirit guides up on a pedestal like they have with a lot of the Abrahamic faiths. And it's not really a pedestal that they need to be on. Do they need to be recognized and observed and respected and honored? Yes. But they're not asking you to worship them. They're asking you to work with them. It's a partnership. Is it even? No. Often it's unequal. That's why you have your ancestors to work with and you have your spirit guides to work with. And often you work with several deities. Sometimes you work with the elements. Sometimes you do all of the above. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So, that being said, don't take your structured belief set from the Abrahamic faiths and apply it to the pagan path because it's different. For me, I generally honor my ancestors first because they have a very vested interest in my well-being and taking care of me and supporting me. I talk to my spirit guides next because, again, they have a vested interest in me, but they might also be the spirit guides for someone else. And you don't always have the same spirit guides throughout your life because as you mature and you change and you grow, you might have a different spirit guide that meets your needs for that time. Sometimes you have one that grows with you, and sometimes you have different ones. It varies. It depends on your path and how things are going. And then I'll talk to the deities, the divine, the individuals I work with. Often it's Hecate or Coninos. Depending on what I need to do, I might work with a lesser deity or not. Again, it varies. It really depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. And then about the same time or parallel to talking to the divine, I talk to the elements and I try to connect with the elements. Sometimes I do that first, depending on how much I need to ground what I'm trying to do or what is it I'm trying to accomplish. Because sometimes you do need to have that grounding with the earth, for instance, before you can do a ritual or a ceremony or a spell. Sometimes you need to connect with the wind or the rain. It does vary. It just does. But that's, again, remember, I mentioned earlier, this is my belief set. This is the way I believe. It's my opinion, my tradition, if you will. If you want to learn more about it, send me the email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. I'm working on a book. We will be doing a class after the first of the year. One of the many things I have on my to-do list. Many, many things. And then, do your research. What is going to be best with you? In order to move forward on your spiritual path, you have to let go of the debris, the weights, the anchor, those things that hold you back from following the pagan path and learning more about your own spirituality. For me, paganism is a path of spirituality. I'm becoming more closely connected to the spiritual world. There's a learning curve, little one, yeah. Little, tiny, big, kind of, yeah. You learn things. This is why we journal. This is why we write things in a notebook. Because we're learning stuff. And as we learn, we need to pay attention to what's happening around us and how our actions are impacting the world around us. Or are they? Did you do it right? Actually, that second guessing yourself, that's really normal. Don't be afraid to try a ritual or a spell. Because honestly, the deities are a lot more forgiving. But if you work with your ancestors first, they're extraordinarily forgiving. Why? Because they have that vested interest in your success and your well-being. And we all need that. Now, I get it. Not everybody has the same close relationship with their ancestors. I have complicated ancestors, so the connection is complicated as well. I generally just put it out there as ancestors. I don't ask for any one specific, just because they all have different skill sets. We'll leave it at that. And there's some advice that I just don't take because I am more familiar with the individual who handed it out. But yeah. And I've talked about ancestors in the past, and don't compel an ancestor to work with you that isn't comfortable doing a ritual or something. So that's why I say ancestors as a group rather than one specific. And then journal. Write down what you did. And when it comes to ending the things that we've had going on, as Lucky mentioned earlier, there's been some justice happening. There's quite a few different deities out there fighting injustice. We don't always understand what that looks like because it doesn't necessarily seem like justice to us. That's because we only have part of the story. There's 3 sides to every story. What one person said, or the first person says it happened, what the second person said happened, and then what really happened. And often what really happened is similar to an iceberg. You can only see the tip, the rest of it's underneath, and it's going to wipe you out as soon as it tips over. So don't just jump to the conclusion that whatever source you're getting your information from is absolutely right. Remember, look for the roots. What is the basis of the arguments that everybody is having or doing? Why are they saying those things, and why are they doing the things they're doing? Because they might be giving you opinions instead of information. There are places out there in the world that you can get information without opinions. TFR actually has quite a Truth Frequency Radio has a lot of information. So if you listen to me on a regular basis or a Paranormal Portal and you have questions about the political situation here in the U.S., check out some of the other shows. Check out tfrlive.com. Trust me, you'll be surprised at some of the information out there because TFR is after the truth, not their opinion of the truth. Generally. We all have opinions, though. We just do. Sorry, guys. So, Tower card. If you have a tarot reading and the Tower card is pulled, don't be afraid of it. Don't let it give you anxiety. Don't let it stress you out. Don't let it cause panic or think it's going to be a foreshadowing of something horrible happening, like your house burning down or losing your job or, significant relationship changes, that kind of thing. It means something is ending. That's all. Something is coming to a close. And there may be some karmic payback for what was happening prior to that ending or what that is causing that ending. And then a fresh start is coming. And sometimes we need that. If I'm looking around the world today, all around the world, I got to tell you, we need some fresh starts. So if I were to do a tarot reading right now, I would almost want the Tower card so that I could totally, completely say change is coming and it'll be better. I think change is coming. I think it will be better, but I don't have the card in front of me to show you. So yeah. Tonight we talked about the eclipse, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. Both are instruments of change. And you know, there's a lot of change happening. I can see it all around us. I can see it at the grocery store. I can see it when I put gas in the car. I can see it in the school system. I can see it in the retail facilities I go into. I can see it on the news. I can read it in the paper. I can see it online. Change is happening every moment of our world right now. Pay attention to those changes and know that some of them are lightning bolts of change and some are going to be causing the lightning bolts of change. So do your research, make sure you have the right information so you understand what's going on so you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. Just like I tell everybody, make the best decision for yourself and your family. Generally, when it comes to witchcraft, we do a lot of Esbats and Sabbats. Esbats are the full moons. Sabbats are the 8 major holidays of the witch year, the pagan year, Wiccan year, however you want to put it. Those are like the big days. Think the big holidays, Easter, Christmas, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's the little rituals that have the most meaning. You don't have to do a big something. You can do a little something. I often, as I'm fixing my cup of coffee in the morning, I have a little bit of ritual that goes with it, a little bit of mental mantra that goes with it. And it helps to set me up for the day. Part of what I do every day is I go for a short walk really early in the morning. I come back to the house, drink a little coffee, take a little nap, and then I'm able to do the things that I need to get done. Sometimes I take a longer nap and I'm a little harder to get going. That happens. And I need to just accept that I need to roll with that and not freak out that instead of taking a 1-hour nap, I took a 2-hour nap. Apparently I needed it, sadly. So, journal what you're seeing. You know, we're still technically in a crisis mode with the COVID. Technically, take that as you will. I sure hope you've got your plague diaries going. What's going on? How is it affecting your family? I know someone that is still in the emergency or in the ICU down in Coeur d'Alene. She's getting stronger, which is good, and you know, love and energy to her. She's a warrior. And then somebody I know has been exposed to COVID and has a mandatory 10-day vacation, which, even though he's already had COVID, he's now on vacation because he doesn't have the vaccine. So, be aware of the side effects of some of the choices you make. So if you decide to take a religious exemption, for instance, or a medical exemption for the COVID vaccine, there are some repercussions. One of those is you may have to take the 10-day vacation if you're exposed. But you shouldn't be singled out by your employer. That's a naughty no-no. There's a big law about that. So, change is happening. We're wrapping projects up. We're wrapping up things that have been happening this year and some of the fallout and the insanity with it. And as a result, those things are going to be, just like if you're trying to pop a balloon and you squeeze all the air into one part and you keep squeezing it harder and harder and harder until all the air is into this one little bitty part just before it pops. There's a lot of pressure in that spot. So some of these changes that are happening, there's a lot of pressure with them. and that pressure is going to hit a boiling point, and things are not necessarily going to be pleasant. They just are. They just are what they are. So, don't be afraid if you see more things in the news or more things in the media about what's going on in the world. Some of it will be really scary. Some of it will be like, you guys are idiots. Some will be a combination. It's just the pressures are happening. And once that pressure is expelled with the lightning bolt, if you will, the card houses will fall down, and it'll be time to rebuild, and everybody will be on equaler footing. I'm not going to say equal footing because that would be inaccurate. So when I say be prepared, I mean make sure you have something to eat and drink if the power goes out, a way to keep yourself warm if the power goes out, a couple extra days of medication in case you take daily meds, or ways to get it. Just, we're moving into the storm season. We've had, in Idaho this week, we had 60-degree weather on Sunday. We had windstorms with gusts up to 70 miles an hour Monday night into Tuesday. Wednesday, the temperature dropped. Wednesday night into Thursday, it started snowing. We had a storm advisory for Thursday night into Friday where we got 6 inches of snow. And there's, I think, a potential for rain again on Sunday. So we've had like all the seasons almost in 1 week. Change happens. Be prepared. The wind was strong enough. It knocked out the power for a little bit on Monday night. Had a lot of flickers and a lot of brownouts. Just unplugged pretty much everything because we didn't want it to blow with all the power surging. So that kind of thing happens. That's what we're preparing for. We're not preparing for the end of the world or World War III because I don't know that you can really prepare for that. We're preparing for the power going out because of the weather. Tornadoes happen, thunderstorms happen, windstorms happen, rain happens, flooding happens. Technically, earthquake happens. Not as often, well, actually they're pretty often, but they're not as impactful as a flash flood right now. So pay attention to what you're surrounding, what's going on in your world. Make sure you're ready in case the power goes out. That's the big thing. And be ready for the change. Because it's going to happen whether you want it to or not. And you can fight it. And you can cause yourself stress and higher blood pressure and health issues and anxiety because you're fighting it. It'll keep you from sleeping at night, which makes you sicker, more prone to being sick, which nobody wants. So you can do all those things. Yep, you betcha. Or you can accept that change is going to happen and figure out how you're going to roll with it and come out stronger for it on the other side rather than causing yourself to be sick. I mean, think about it. I'd rather be well. Meditate. I meditate often. Sometimes the meditation does lead to a nap. This COVID stuff is kind of ridiculous. My dad has COVID now. My brother-in-law has it. My nephews have it. My daughter-in-law had it. My grandkids had it. We're not anti-vaxxers by any stretch of the imagination, but we are educators, if you will, and we'd rather know more than just assume. Yeah, you know all that. So, we're just about done for the night. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about tomorrow night. We'll figure it out tomorrow night. And, remember, embrace the changes that are happening. Don't let them hold you back. Don't let them cause you anxiety, stress, and illness, just because they're going to happen. And, figure out how to love those changes. Don't let the tower card scare you or make you panic if you pull it in a reading or you come across it, because it is kind of a scarier looking image, sadly. Enjoy the full moon tonight. Put your water out, your crystals out, whatever. Do your moonlight cleansing, your moonlight bath. Sometimes we need to go out and be in the moonlight. We just do. We all need the cleansing. And remember, basic cleansing spells is I'm washing away the stuff that I don't need as you wash your hands in the bathroom sink or kitchen sink after being somewhere that's really causing you some grief. Rituals and spells do not have to be complicated. They can be as simple as you need them to be to do the things you need to do. Sometimes those are the stronger ones. So, This is Paisley Wild. Thank you for joining me here on The Spaces Between. You've joined me on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, Tune In, and TalkStream Live on YouTube. If you have any questions, by all means, send me the email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. You can always check out the website, www.paisleywild.com, or hashtag $ The Spaces Between. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. We'll see you tomorrow.